This video is sponsored by MPB. When OM System loaned me this lens for this trip, I was like, yeah, okay, cool, yeah, send it along, thanks. And then it arrived, and then I realised which lens it was. OM System G. How much?
Oh no!
This is the Olympus Pro 150 to 400 f4.5 constant, also known as Big White. It's the most expensive micro four thirds lens ever made. So needless to say, my expectations have been very, very high. So let me show you what I've got up to with this lens, and I'll share my thoughts and feelings. So if you're used to traveling with lighter micro four thirds gear, this is obviously going to be a little bit of a change of pace. It's blooming massive. It's 1.8 kilograms. And I got a comment that said, it's like carrying a trumpet, but the music is much sweeter. And I thought that summed it up perfectly. It's not light, it's not small, and it's certainly not cheap. It goes against the grain of a lot of what micro four thirds enthusiasts love about the system. However, it is smaller and cheaper and lighter than any full frame counterparts that offer this focal length and this aperture. Poster child for micro four thirds, this lens is not, but it has a lot of tricks up its sleeve and incredible image quality. You've got plenty of tactile options on one side. You've got your focus limiter, the stabilization, autofocus, etc. And on the other side, we have a built-in teleconverter. Insane. So literally you just need to do that and you're at 1.25, and that is the most satisfying thing in the world to do. You can do that without taking your eye off the viewfinder as well. So if you do need a little bit more reach, you can very quickly toggle that on. It's super nice. I've found the focus throw to be nice and short, and this is a huge benefit when you are quickly trying to track birds, because my method is starting a little bit wider, get the bird in the viewfinder, and then slowly zoom in so that I can position myself properly. Sometimes a lot of waiting for puffins is waiting for them to come out of the burrows, waiting for them to clean their little wingies, and then fly away or fly back. They are quite methodical. They'll go around in the same circles and land in the same spots. So it is sometimes a lot of sitting or kneeling and standing and waiting. I've been kneeling with this for the last few shots, and it's all been handheld. The stabilization has been stupidly good, and it's not been that fatiguing really to just sort of kneel and hold it for a good few minutes while I wait, or stand and hold it. Sometimes I've been using these things just as a little bit of support, but really for bird photography you want to get down low, so kneeling has been working really well. And obviously, while it isn't small, it is internal zoom, so it is so nicely balanced. I've not found this hard to handhold at all. It's been really, really nice. Conversely, the other lens I've got with me, it's so big I'm using my GM5 as a lens cap. This is the OM System 150 to 600, and because it isn't internal zoom, when you are at the long end, my goodness, do you feel it in your arms and in your back. It just knocks the centre of balance completely wrong. So having internal zoom on Big White is worth its weight in gold. OM System reserve the lens stabilization sync for the high-end pro lenses, and Big White does have lens stabilization built in, as you would hope for the price. And because it is a pro lens, it also unlocks the faster burst mode features. With the pro lenses on the OM System cameras, you can get up to 50 frames per second versus 25 with a non-pro lens. So you unlock all the coolest features on the OM1 and the OM1 Mark II when you pair it with Big White. And I have to say the stabilization has been superb. A lot of bird photography, particularly puffins, is holding and waiting for the action to happen. And having the lens be quite centrally weighted and quite nice to hold, and pairing that with the stabilization where you can keep everything steady. Even in really, really harsh winds here in the Faroe Islands, I've been able to keep everything steady and keep everything in my viewfinder where I want it to be. Coolest, most underrated feature. This. The bracket boy is actually an Arca Swiss plate. I mean, why don't all camera brands do this? Not only that, but it's much longer as well, so it's very nice to hold. So when I've been hiking, I've just been holding my camera like this, like a very expensive handbag. But what a brilliant idea, and I find that to be absolutely lovely. Also on this as well, you can turn it around and it has little stops at every quarter. I find that very satisfying, and it's just dead easy to quickly move from portrait to landscape. You don't mess up your composition too much as well as you move. Very well designed. There are function buttons for days on this lens. I think all the ones around here are function buttons, and there's also one down here as well by the teleconverter. I've not actually assigned them to anything. Let me know in the comments what would be the best sort of use cases for these, because I haven't thought of anything yet. But it's cool that you can customize things so much. So the white color of this lens, of course it looks super premium, and I know that there is some kind of, people see a white lens and think that it's pricey and it's the top end one, and that's lovely. But I think for wildlife, I think I'd probably, if it was my own lens and I didn't have to give it back, I would like to stick some sort of vinyl on it, or maybe just camo it up a little bit. I went to a bird hide looking for some kingfishers in the wild, and they were reportedly coming every 20 minutes. And when I rocked up with Big White, I'm not saying it's Big White's fault, but I wonder if it reflects the light a little bit more hanging out of the bird hide compared to a standard lens, because I was waiting there for 2.5 hours and didn't get any kingfishers. I think if this was my own lens, I would be inclined to camo it up. So this lens is 4.5 constant all the way through, so it's relatively fast for a super telephoto lens, and it is super duper sharp wide open all the way through the range. It's definitely one of those lenses that's designed to be shot wide open and utilized in that way to let as much light in as possible. And even with the 1.25 teleconverter, you do obviously have to multiply the aperture when you engage that, but it only knocks it up to an f6.3. So that's still very, very usable as well. And very, very sharp wide open. I've basically been shooting wide open most of the time. Now this obviously could be due to the OM1 Mark II that I've been using this week, but the autofocus in this combination is just out of this world. Using the pre-burst modes, using the Bird AI has been incredible, and surely sticking a £7,000 lens on the camera is going to help, because you've got the best, most pro motors that Olympus and OM System have. So look at these burst shots. There is just not one miss. I think I've seen 1 or 2 out of focus shots out of hundreds. Absolutely crazy good. So back to the price, because it is very high. I think it's just as premium as you would hope for that price tag. And I do think it offers something relatively unique. It's quite fast aperture and it covers a very, very wide focal range. I think there is a specific niche for this lens, and that is the high-end enthusiast and the professional, the people that go out shooting birds and wildlife every chance they get, and that is their joy in life. I can't imagine a much better setup for this price point if that's something that you're really, really interested in. And for me, hand on heart, I genuinely can't afford this lens, and it's going to be pretty much the saddest thing that I'm ever going to give back. It's only on loan from OM System, and I'm going to shed a little tear when I have to say goodbye. I think when this lens is concerned in particular, buying used is so valuable. You can shave literally thousands of pounds off the price tag by shopping used. And MPB are the sponsor of this video, and they're the perfect place to do it. You can even trade in some of your existing equipment while you're at it, so you could trade something in for this and take the price down even more. Everything that you buy through MPB has a 6-month warranty, so you've got a little bit of peace of mind. Always their quotes are very competitive when you trade things in with them, and they're always just an absolute joy to work with. And perhaps this lens might be a little bit rich for your blood, and that is absolutely fine. I totally empathise with that. But there's so much selection on the MPB website. They're the world's largest online platform, in fact, for buying, selling and trading your used camera equipment. So you'll definitely find something that's right for you. Make sure to check them out using the links below. It really does help to support this channel. I love them, I use them all the time, and thank you once again to MPB for sponsoring this video. So for the right person, with the right budget, and the right sort of enthusiasm for what this lens could add to your life, I think it's absolutely superb. This with the OM1 Mark II has pretty much been the best combination of lenses and cameras that I've ever used, and I've used a lot. And that is saying something, and I don't say that lightly. I had very, very high expectations for this lens because of course I did, because it's stupidly expensive. But having used it extensively now in the Faroe Islands, I can really see why it costs what it does. It truly is the best lens I've ever used. I'm just gonna say it. It's the best lens I've ever used. The sharpness and the micro contrast and the way that you can just crop in on these images and not lose any detail. The way that you can find the birds really well. The way that it's so well balanced, even though it is bigger. Absolutely incredible. But of course you do pay for that. So, pros and cons, I guess. So here are some of my favourite images that I've taken with this delightful big white, and I'm going to crop in a little bit just so you can see how much detail you can get with this lens. And I'm just really, really going to be sad to give it back. Is it worth it to go on the run and go in hiding so that I don't have to give this lens back? I'm seriously considering it. I could move here, right? How nice is this little house? I could just live on this island with this lens and shoot the puffins. So if this lens is too eye-wateringly expensive for you, why not check out this lens next? I've got a full review of it. It is much cheaper and it's bigger and heavier and a longer focal length again. But you could buy 3.5 of these for the price of this. Or you could buy one of these, an OM1 Mark II, and a trip to the Faroe Islands and probably still have change for parking and fish and chips.